Welcome to Audio Products Podcast. We are meeting with pro audio industry veterans, founders, product managers, UX designers, to learn how they build and manage the products we all love. You will get tips how to navigate your career in audio and how to develop a successful audio product. From musical instruments through audio plugins and gaming middleware up to music distribution platforms or consumer electronics like headphones, mics, and even automotive speaker systems. Enjoy! Hey Tzipi, good evening.
Good evening, Wojtek. Hello.
We had a pretty hard time, right, to finally record the episode. Went through some technical difficulties, but finally we are able to make it.
Yes. Oh, look at us.
Yeah. So I would like to welcome also our listeners and introduce to you Tzipi Schindler, who is, well, actually, let me maybe introduce yourself, right? And rather than me talking about you, will you say a few words about yourself?
I'm happy to do so. I thought maybe we can start with a little exercise. Maybe this episode will be a bit different for the listeners. We can start with an exercise of sharing what we're coming with. We have bit mentioned already the technical difficulties, but yeah, just a exercise in vulnerability. So I can say that I'm excited for this opportunity. It's been quite a journey of learning for me, preparing for this episode. And I'm nervous because it's my first time doing this. Would you like to share something, Wojtek?
Oh yeah, what can I say? I think I would say that I'm always nervous. It's actually like a 15th episode and I'm always nervous. And the funny thing is that when I get nervous, my English deteriorates, and I always, after each episode, have a hangover because I say, oh, now will be hundreds of people listening, to my terrible English. And, funny thing is that when I'm a little bit less nervous, I can speak perhaps a little bit better. And, especially when you talk to very articulate people, it can, or somebody who has like an amazing experience that can, you can feel a little bit of like imposter syndrome here. So that's, I think, and coming with the, always some technical difficulties like we have, had, because finally we are here. It can be pretty challenging. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing with me and everyone.
Yeah. Well, somebody mentioned, once that, after all, it's actually, don't worry, it's not about yourself, about your great guests, so, let them speak and that will be enough, right? And that's what I at least try to do. But come on, tell also listeners a little bit about you, yourself, okay?
Before that, there's another exercise I want to do. I hope that's fine. And that's setting an intention for today, for the episode. So we are going to talk about hope. And hope is the belief that the world can be better. Things can be better. So yes, I just want to put the intention out there that with what we talk about today, maybe some of this people, the audience, can't relate with, but I would ask for open hearts and open ears. Because I want maybe a guiding principle for the episode is that, after this conversation, the world would be a place maybe with more connection, maybe more respect, maybe more love even. So just to put it out there, and maybe this can be a guiding principle that follows us throughout this conversation.
Good. Listen, can I just add something to it?
Yeah, of course.
I really we obviously we're just also working on the meetup and we just had some difficulties, but generally we spoke over last couple of weeks quite a few times, and it's always it was really interesting conversations and a lot of I would say unexpected topics, I would say, for me. And so, or like things that I think sometimes also people usually don't pay so much attention, right? We talk about, culture, like feelings, but in the business, they always, it's a little bit like awkward, and I think, right? And it's just, okay, let's talk about connections, etc. But it's just like a nice phrase that yeah, people can be silent for a moment and then just like pass it along, yeah, and move on and talk about something else, But I mean, every time we spoke, it was actually pretty interesting because we talk about vulnerability and like a generally culture in organizations and diversity, which is obviously, you see, also a topic of its own. So yeah, I really like, and what I'm trying to say is that I enjoy talking with you not only on the episodes, but like every time it's just like it become like almost like a habit that we every Monday, right? We had some conversation. Let's talk, technical details of the episode. Then it actually turned out to be like a 2 hours conversation with a coffee. Yeah, so that was very nice. Hopefully, you will not like completely disconnect once we finally made it, right?
Yeah. I'm sure not. I'm sure I see like a fruitful path ahead. Because I really enjoyed our conversations as well. Yeah, I can share about myself maybe because you heard some, but maybe the people listening haven't. Yes, I come from a Jewish family. I grew up in Jerusalem, and this morning I was actually sitting, and my mother reminded me yesterday that it's a new month in the Jewish calendar, and it's the last month of the Jewish calendar, and it's a month of repentance, asking for forgiveness, and yeah, starting to prepare our hopes for the new year, our dreams. I was listening to my playlist for the playlist for the holiday that represents the Jewish New Year is called Rosh Hashanah. And I was listening to the playlist that I have for Rosh Hashanah. And one song is really touches me on a very, very emotional, very like touches like this side of me that's, like there's grown up Tzipi, but there's really like child Tzipi. So it touches me on this very, very basic place. It's called Avinu Malkeinu, and it's a millennia old prayer with a beautiful rendering of by Barbra Streisand. And yeah, the violins in it and the music and the tune that you hear, it so much represents like this idea of the Jewish nigun. So it's this type of tune, and just it's just this tune with the violins, the way they're playing, they just so much speak this language of hope. And I grew up on that. I grew up in a Jewish family, and I grew up on this idea of things can be better, the world can be better. And yeah, with a connection to music as well, representing this hope. I rebelled, and I didn't stay in the Jewish culture in my young adult years. I went and I explored. I mean, by this rebellion, I kind of set this path for being some kind of an outsider. So leaving the heritage that I grew up on. So being like an ex religious person always meant I felt some kind of an outsider. But yeah, I went, and my connection actually to the arts was I studied arts, so fine arts in high school.
Oh,
And then yeah. and
Oh,
went
you just
on went on to doing fine art in university as well, combined with sociology and anthropology, because I wanted my art to say something about society and something about freedom and independence and confinement when freedom is taken away from people. So I explored that in my high school years and in my university years. And yeah, from there, I did not stick to the arts. I decided to go into, well, I got very excited about this idea of joining a startup. A friend of mine, back living in Israel, he started a startup in Herzliya, so the hub of tech at the days in Israel. And yeah, I got very excited about this idea of being able to dabble in so many different things. I started coding HTML and CSS. Oh, you have a question?
yeah. I just wanted to ask, how it's just like how did you come up with the idea of a startup? Coming from like a fine arts and like a anthropology, etc. It's just like look like a completely different, right? Path from from somewhere like a technology and startups and business and from culture. It's just like a accidentally. How did it come to
So
life?
this was my friend offering me to join. So I was the only person he knew that spoke English as a native speaker, and he needed somebody to write some marketing material, answer customer support queries. So I started there, but soon I found myself also working with our developer and designer on which new features we can add to our apps. So this is like apps
right.
for eBay sellers. And then I found my creative side and like coding our websites and doing some coding on our websites. Marketing has so much creativity that can be put into it. Yeah. Also just coming up with like, okay, how do we automate and improve our customer support? How we create like a forum for answering customers' questions, create documentation. Because yeah, I was taking I had basically 2 hours a day to do customer support for thousands of customers. So I wanted to make it efficient so that I won't have to, like, I can go on and do my all the other responsibilities I took on myself. And that was basically my path to product management. One day my friend was telling me, "Oh, you're the product manager of our startup." I was like, "Oh, okay. Good to know."
What is that? That's interesting. That's funny. That's funny. That's so funny.
And that was the beginning. Like from there I moved to Berlin. I didn't quite connect with the startup scene in Berlin. Didn't Yeah, you can't repeat an experience, right? You try to repeat it, it's never going to be the same. But
no, because you didn't want, or this just was so tiring, or like you just needed something else, something new. You wanted, to learn something new. Because I mean, some people actually love, like, they're just even like a serial, it's like a term, serial entrepreneurs who just love, startups and being in startups and this culture of doing something creative in a small group, like in chaos, sleeping.
Right, but
the floor.
the conditions that I had with my friend back home, like back in Israel, like just they could not be duplicated. So it just was not the same conditions of like this exciting environment in which I can do so many different things. It was a bit more like there's a bit more of an organization in the way things are done, and how it's very, very different to join like a startup where you're from the beginning with the founders, as opposed to when you, I guess, join a startup that's a bit more became a bit more grounded and set in some ways.
But I have certain feelings as well, but I mean, I just wonder what is your so what was this greatest thing about being in startup and comparing to or good and bad things about startups comparing to more established organizations.
Yeah, it was really, for me, it was the biggest thing is the ability to wear multiple hats, to be able to do multiple things and discover in a matter of months, I discovered this whole new interest that I have because the opportunity presented itself for me to do Google Analytics and to optimize on our website in a certain way. And the next week, it's like I'm already building the website for a new app that we're launching. Like, just so many opportunities to do such a big variety of things. And we had such a great culture also of celebrating. And it's not, I mean, but here it's important for me not to make comparisons. You ask the question in a way of comparison, but I think it's maybe not crucial to make the comparison, because then we maybe miss out on the good, just calling it like, what are the good things each has. I ended up in a okay.
I didn't mean even to compare, but I'm just you experience both, right? So it's everything has its pros and cons, right? And I just wonder, what's especially the. But maybe let me explain. So I feel also a bit, way more. Way better in the a startup environment because of the agency and this kind of culture when really you can get things done, rather there's no so much politics and a hidden agendas and power games and stuff like this, so that's why maybe just there is obviously a little bit of comparison, but I mean I understand that on the other hand you have a lot of more a job security and very often better salary, etc. So if somebody wants to, I don't know, make their family bigger, it's obviously probably better to work for a more established company. Yeah, and
things are not that simple, right? What I actually, maybe we can fast forward to the big company that I found a home in for 6 years and was a wonderful place for me. So what I liked, and that's Native Instruments. What I liked there is there was just connecting with people, and this it's where I wanted to also spend time after work. It's people that I wanted to get together and cook for. It was just a amazing place to connect with people. And for somebody that's not coming from the music industry, it meant so much that people welcomed me and, gave me opportunity, opened doors for me, which again, no comparison, doors were opened for me also going into a startup world. And it's about, I guess, when we get a chance to meet the right people on our path that give us these opportunities, like you're doing here for me today, which I'm also grateful for. So it's I think I have no comparison to make between the different companies that I worked at. They were just different and unique, and helped me get to where I am from so many different aspects.
You know what? That's when I meant at the beginning that I love talking to you, and you always bring some unexpected or a little bit different perspective. Was that this is a perfect example with let's not compare. Everything is a little bit different, and so we don't have to always follow the same a path, right? So that's That's why I like so much talking to you, right, about those. And very often, I mean, typical topics, but I mean, brought with different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say I'm just the right. I need to do that now, right? I'll be honest, and I'm gonna say that I'm now searching for my next job, my next opportunity. And it's such a hard call for me to say I want a big company, I want a startup, right? Because I know it's really not about that. It's about the people I will meet there. It's the connections I will make. And we'll get to the biggest topic of today, beside hope, is belonging. It's about, will I feel there belonging? Will it be my place? Yeah, so it's so tricky, and it's hard to say. From my experience, it's so hard to say, would it be a big company? Would it be a small startup?
Yeah, I hear you. It's just sometimes you can, I mean, I just can't say anything. I'm just like 100% with you. I mean, just like when the people are right, and the feeling is right, it can be like anything. Absolutely. And I sometimes like heard and saw story, and I even experienced that sometimes it was completely something. It's just like a completely different industries or situations that I wouldn't, like imagine otherwise, just because, the people were, or like some great connection with somebody, or with your future boss, or like, that was, yeah.
It's about the people we meet, I guess. Yeah.
But can I be a little bit more like a traditional? I know
Yes,
that we just
please give me structure.
No, just I want also to like unpack, or like shed some light on this mysterious subject, right? That we brought, or you brought, right? The hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? So we already mentioned, when you're talking about your upbringing, right? About the hope and how important this is. But I know from our previous conversations that this means more than just like a typical feeling of hope, and like there's some interesting theories, and I was actually doing some research myself, like taking some notes, so I have a lot of questions I want to ask you, but I mean, so maybe can you maybe just say something about why do you say hope for the best, plan for the worst, and how does it translate to the like a kind of business organizational thing?
Yeah, happy to. So I like to think of myself, and I think I coined this term from our earlier conversations, a hope-driven product manager. And where does that come from? So 4 years ago, I believe it was, when I became familiar with Brené Brown's book, The Gift of Vulnerability. She's an amazing social researcher that really helped me when I was going through this period of self-growth, and not in the learning to code way, but more like, I want to be better with people and how I relate with them, and I need to start with myself.
Oh no.
With how I relate. And she talks about resilience and what makes for resilience, and she talks about how it's about building hope, having critical awareness, and feeling our feelings. And I think I try to take all of those into product management. But the hope part, she says something very interesting. that it comes from this psychologist, I believe, C.R. Snyder, that speaks about hope theory. And that's rather than focusing on the emotional side. Of course, hope has so many emotions, right? I told you how I was listening to Barbra Streisand, Avinu Malkeinu, and it just like my heart quivered. So hope, of course, has the emotional side to it, but I more connect with the rational side of things. The emotional is more recent. So like thinking about balancing the rational with the emotional. Yeah, she talks about, or Snyder talks about hope theory and how it's basically a cognitive process that people go about. And in this cognitive process, now this will be familiar for most of us. We have a goal. We have ways to get to the goal. And we also, in order to come up with the ability to set pathways how to reach a goal, that's based on experience, right? So we need confidence in order to yeah. So basically, the like three components of hope is goal, pathways, and the confidence to go about that. Yeah, I had a humiliating, a bit of a humbling, maybe not humiliating, more humbling story recently about this idea of confidence, right? A reminder about confidence. Because we all heard that, when you're the most inexperienced with something, you have the most confidence in your ability to do it, right?
Some people do, yeah. I mean, most
Because
probably,
you
yeah.
get it right once and you're like, oh, I've got this. So I shared with you that I went to this, there's a group that I went to cook with in a festival. And I'm pretty new to this, but from a few times of stirring these giant pots that are supposed to feed like 300, 400 peoples, from like a few times doing so successfully, I was like, they put me on a task. They offered me to cook, to stir this pot, and I have a more experienced member of the team supervising me, and she asks, are you good? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've got this. And just a few moments later, we smelled the burning from the pot, because I didn't know that there can be this like blind spot in the bottom of the pot, and that you need to notice for it, and that's where food can accumulate and start burning. Yeah, so that was a very humbling story about confidence and how sometimes we can have this confidence, but when you become more experienced, you start planning for the worst. You know that things will go wrong. So you balance the hope for the best. You have a goal. You have the ways that you went about them before. You built through your expertise and experience. You know what can go wrong, so you prepare for it. You have the confidence, but also then I find that my anxiety and stress is actually very helpful with having a more cautious approach, and also to help me plan better by thinking about keeping me on the toes with the different scenarios of what can go wrong. Yeah, we could speak a bit more about anxiety and stress maybe later, but yeah, I think this covers this idea of like the rational, emotional product manager that's, is optimistic, but it's also grounded in a plan, right? And it's also about being able to realize that you can't plan for everything that will go wrong. So you will need to improvise. You'll need to be able to deal with a situation that you haven't anticipated happening, and on the spot decide how you deal with that.
Interesting part is the improvisation, because when I heard and read a little bit, very little, but about the theory when you talk about this planning, I feel a little bit like something like a how to say that, like a little opposition, and say no, but you can't just plan everything, right? It's just like everybody who launch a new product knows that there's actually like a path, like you say, with so many unknowns, and how to say that. What I'm trying to say is that, of course, like risk management is important, but I mean, innovation also comes from being a little bit open and actually, right? I mean, not having, what I'm trying to say, more like a divergent thinking. So not trying to categorize everything from the very beginning, but have this like this idea of divergent, convergent thinking, that in the beginning, having a little bit of openness, not just being critical. So I'm not sure how this can. But I guess I don't know the theory very well either. But what I'm actually super interested in is actually how this translates, to like a. So I understand it's more like a framework that helps a person, or this can also help organization. Do you think how this can be take practically to the, this kind of, or how do you, maybe the other words, I mean, not just in general, but how do you use it, or how does it help you to be, at work, and
sorry, I'm a bit distracted. My cat is walking around here, keeping me on my toes. Pets are definitely good for improvisation. So how do I actually use this? So of course it helps me in personal challenges, and I found it to be very helpful at times where maybe hope is a bit shaky and the future is not very clear. I found it very, very beneficial to make my own personal roadmap with goals of what I want to reach and what are the milestones to get there, guided by, I always try to think, what are the values that are guiding me in order to remember what I want to achieve. Because in the end, right, we will improvise, things will come up, and the most important part that would stay, that changes much less frequently, and that's the thing that I guess we have the most control over, our values. So while the plan might change, we can have our values that guide us in also when our personal roadmap changes. And the same when working with a team, right? So it's important that we're clear on our vision and mission. We draw a roadmap with goals out of that, and we come up with the paths to reach them. Like, what are the short-term, midterm, and long-term milestones, and what are the plans for what's the strategy for executing on that plan.
But you see, you mentioned that this a hope is this kind of guiding principle. So And I'm sorry for asking stupid questions. Maybe it's because
No.
I'm not like a. It's just I'm firstly a lot of these materials. Haven't had a chance to like read the entire book like from the first time we talked. I read a couple of articles, but I mean, you talk about a lot of things. There's like values and goals, etc. But you also mentioned that like this how to say this theory mostly say about this balance between emotional and rational, right? So are all these so how so is this like I'm just trying to guess where is this so if somebody would like to, for example, take this book and somehow they say, hey, that's interesting, so how can I just like take it into something like a personal, and how can I just like use any I'm not sure if we can use actually things like this into like a typical tool, like a self-growth tool, or like a you know what I'm trying to say, or like a
Yeah. So I guess what I was saying, we do it anyway, right? It's just putting it into like a framework, but this is what we do as humans, right? And then there's a topic of there is something that we should discuss on the ability of somebody to have agency and optimism. That's a different topic, but this is this hope acting as a rational process. This is happening anyway. This is what humans are doing every day.
Can I just interrupt you? But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I mean, I know. I mean, I just wonder if this. How to say that? I can find a lot of people who are not very optimistic and look like they like lost hope. And when I wanted to ask this question, another one automatically came to my mind. It's maybe in light of this like a I don't do it like a hope theory, because we are not just trying to frame everything into one theory, but in light of like talking about hope, maybe that's the reason because they were somehow, disempowered, so to speak, right? So they no longer feel hope. But I can also see that some people, it looks like some people are more a little bit energetic, right? And more, how to say, optimistic, and even by the character, right? So I just wonder what do you think about this? Like, where is this draw, like a line between your character traits and being, very driven and having a lot of hope, optimism. My mother is like this, so whatever happens, she's always like optimistic, right? And some people are more like they look like a risk manager, right? They always try to find everything negative about this scenario, right? And I just wonder, yes, what do you think about that?
No, I can't explain all the different people and how they're acting, but I could imagine that sometimes what does happen is when somebody, it's not even that they might be missing the confidence in themselves, but they also might we operate on multiple levels. There's the level of the self, and that's where like the self-esteem would be, and the belief in ourselves that is influenced by having opportunities in which you proved yourself. But for those opportunities to exist, they need to be given to you. And if you have a person that on the society level is being blocked by people and is not being given chances, so I mentioned how lucky I was to be given all these chances, but if somebody hasn't been given the chances to build this confidence or to pursue their goals, or is continuously blocked when they're setting ways to go about their goals, I could imagine, I could imagine that they would be pessimistic, or they would lose hope, maybe because of what's happening from the society side of things.
Yeah, it can be both on the like a large on society side or organizational side. Yeah? So like I can see like in a lot of corporations, right? I mean, large organizations, people simply are hopeless because they just want to change something or want to influence something, and there may be some kind of, like a that's And yeah, that's like, and the idea of empowerment, right? So yeah, how can we have people who have hope, or like they are just take responsibility, or when they are constantly denied. Okay.
Blocked. Yeah.
But do you think? I mean, I know it is, and I know we've also, like it's. I think, let me say that it's automatically come to say directs me into the discussion about the diversity, right? So when you're saying about like agency and empowerment and giving people chances, what it means that there are like these empowered groups, simply speaking. Yeah. But you know what I mean? That's the question is probably I would have is that. And once again, I don't have any theory behind this, and I don't want to sound like a ignorant asshole. But I just wonder, whether like groups are, under society. Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. If somebody is, for example, like come from, I don't know, like a gay person, right? And it's just from the very beginning he just listen, or she, how what she is, and from, I don't know, society that is so, how to say, not very open, then it can translate at work, right? And even later, if you get chances, it's so hard actually to change, right? And there is some kind of, but I'm just I'm sorry, I'm just wondering, is there like a still problem, right, with opportunities, giving opportunities to people? And I know we've been talking, we want to talk about tokenism, right, and diversity.
Yeah.
But so like, I wanted to maybe set scene by asking, do you think there is still like a lot of problem with the
so yes, I mean, so I can only share about my personal perspective, and then I would urge people to talk with the experts, because the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion experts know best about this and can share with you all the information that you need to hear. But I can share my personal perspective, where throughout my years in tech, it's always been a struggle. It's been a lot being the only woman. And I had to, but it's not all dark. In my experience, I have hope, because I had people give me opportunities. I had people that believed in me. Not everyone has the same experience. And there's other people out there that, whether we're talking about tech, or I'm sure also in other spheres, in the arts, for example, I'm sure this is also experiences of
exclusion.
That maybe, I mean, so so we can do the one step, and I think we wanted to talk about tokenism, right? I'll just jump right to that and bring it up because it's relevant. Tokenism is when we do a symbolic act in order to bring somebody that is underrepresented in a group, or into it's referred to when bringing somebody from an underrepresented group into a certain sphere. It can also be when giving rights to a certain group, but the actual following with treating that person in the same way, or accepting them for who they are and not asking them to become somebody else, that is not necessarily solved by bringing in people of underrepresented groups, right? So that's where belonging comes into play. It's not enough just to let's say allow, in my experience, to allow women into the tech world. What really changed it for me was, we said it all starts with people. So it was the people that helped me feel like I belong. That's what makes the difference. Because it's not just about diversity. It's allowing people into a sphere that They weren't welcomed before for whatever reasons, but then when they're there, helping them have a sense of safety and that they deserve to be there and that they don't. For many years, I struggled with this feeling that I need to become the people that I see around me. So I need to become what I see as my role model of a man in the tech world in order to belong. And I'm slowly, I guess, well, time is relative, but I'm unlearning that, and that I can maybe be myself. So that's really diversity. That's really, yeah, that's the real diversity, or that's the inclusion, right? When I can be really myself in the tech world and succeed, and I don't need to fit some template of, okay, this is I need to become this other person in order to make it in this world.
But do you feel that it is expected, or like a man expected, women, behave certain way, or like a? I'm just I wonder, it's just what's your perspective?
Well, yeah, I guess I've been lucky to be around people that really welcomed me. So my experience was a positive one. Yeah, and maybe this is why I can be optimistic, because I was around people that accepted me for the person that I started showing up as. So reading Brené Brown and thinking about vulnerability and showing up to my team and being open and honest with them with who I am, and them accepting me. This was this was the test that it is possible. But then we need to hear other people's stories, because yeah, because I think it's important to hear stories that are not as optimistic as mine, right?
True. Well, I mean, definitely, if I can say from the, let's say, men's side, that I'm perfectly aware, and I just work on this as well. The concept of mansplaining, right? I mean, obviously, I mostly learned this by being in a relation, right? And how hard it's actually to sort of, how much it is. And even if you think about yourself as a, a very open and, sort of aware, self-aware person, how often you sort of act out things, let me show you, we know, I know more, so yeah, so yeah, it's pretty hard, I would say, even if your intention is not you know what I'm trying to say. It's force others to be who they are not, they're still yeah, it's pretty hard, I would say. Yeah, no, just wanted to say this. Yeah,
my last workplace. So yeah, so we had unconscious bias training, so people can realize when are they actually treating somebody differently, just based on their misconceptions and their stereotypes. I think it's a very helpful training for many people to become aware of when they might be treating, for example, a woman just because she's a woman, treat her in a certain way. Yeah, that could be unfair. Not giving her really the opportunity to be her full self, not seeing her full self.
But but it's, I mean, still quite, I mean, I'm not trying to sort of, like a, how to say that, devaluate the training. I'm just trying to say that it's, it's just, I think it's on, it's just like so deeply, unfortunately, throughout, I think, millennia, right, embedded in the, in the culture, that it's so hard to eradicate, even if people try. I mean, sometimes, it's so hard, and, to be always super, like you know what I'm trying to say, aware, right?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
To eradicate what?
Like behaviors that somehow like, I mean, I'm specifically talking about mansplaining, right? So when I'm
Okay.
or my wife always like tell me, hey, it's just like gives me feedback, right, that I'm actually acting in a specific way, and once again, I at least I would like to call myself pretty like an open person, and I mean, just by many means never thought about any woman, I don't know, person of any color or religion, whatever. I'm just like, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I just see people. I don't see anything. I don't see labels, right? But I mean, if I think we're just all rooted in the, we're just born into certain culture, right? And it's just like throughout millennia, and it's sometimes this unconscious bias. I think it's not only that person is not aware, but it's so, so deeply, so deeply, how to say, what I'm trying to say. It's deeply
embedded,
right, in the, that people just like suck it with the, like brought up with, it's just like a normal thing for them that, gay people are like this, I mean, I was brought up in Poland, like in the 80s, etc. Fortunately, right now it's completely different, but I mean, it just went pretty long way. And I remember like people making jokes, etc. Nobody like felt like, there's anything wrong with about that. Yeah. And yeah, so it was, I think, decades. Yeah. Before it actually.
So we're talking about culture today, right? And people and humanity. So these are the golden nuggets, right? Like if we invest time into undigging, these behaviors, like the sources of these behaviors that we have that are based on things that we learned that maybe we want to unlearn. I think this is time well spent if we put the time into that, right?
Agreed. But what funny thing is that I even like read this in one book. I think I don't remember what it was. It's like a beauty or like the success behind Silicon Valley was actually this prize for diversity, right? So it's actually such a diverse, and people coming to you. I mean, maybe they mostly mean, I don't know, countries that people were coming from, right? That there is such a big pot of different cultures, etc. But on the other hand, like Silicon Valley, it's all like tech bros, right? Even culture, mostly men, right? And white men, and yeah, and so
we can have hope for a better world in which we see
honestly,
other representations of who are the people in the tech world.
Honestly, but this might sound very pessimistic, but I'm actually pretty pessimistic about this, and I mean generally about the, like a tech culture. We spoke, many times, and yeah, I think money and greed is not even like a question of diversity. It's, I think, question of greed and power and yeah, mostly in hands of men. But I mean, I think it's just like greed is actually, like a characteristic that it's just, but somehow I think,
Well, there's these very big topics, that, I mean, they're just like, in order to create any kind of change, it would mean like it's impossible to see how a single person would create change such towards such a big topic, such as greed or yeah, let's just take greed. So what I like to do is to go back to, there's this exercise that I do with my teams, and that's the circles of influence. So going into this exercise of thinking, it's great as a retro.
Okay.
I can share sources. So going back to the place of what will be within our control to act directly on, what will be in our control to influence, and what's the soup, what is all the rest, the outer circle that is out of our control and we can't do something about. Yeah, I mean, the topic of greed, I would probably address it in my own like personal roadmap, as in like, okay, what's directly in my control? And that's, for example, what priority I put for money in my life. Then what do I have an influence over? That could be, who am I giving my money to? I think maybe you're
Consumption.
getting the idea of this exercise, because when we think about such big you know
Yeah, I
like
know what you mean. I know what you mean. You can actually feel Mm.
social problems, or what can I do about it? It's important. Maybe this is helpful for getting back to optimistic place rather than a pessimistic one, is to think about what's the action that is in my control that I can do to influence that or directly have an impact on that, right?
Mm. Yeah, well, true. You're right. I mean, one has to cope with the reality, and things there cannot be changed. But you see, the funny thing is that in the podcast it's mostly about product management and music and audio. But I mean, in all these episodes, and probably, I mean, talking about vulnerability, you touch my very sort of vulnerable point, which is I find a lot of fear related to where technology is going, and actually driven by greed. And the reason I'm just feeling like a emotional is about this is because it's going to influence everyone. It's just not like only losing jobs because of AI, which is one thing, or like a transformation of the job market, right? Because it luckily it will probably create, as every revolution, new jobs and new AI product managers, right? And other things. Yeah, but I mean, if you study history, with every revolution there are some, like a nuclear energy, right? It started out by nuking country, right, and killing so many people at the same time. So I just wonder when this is going to blow up, and what will have to happen for people to simply not to be so addicted, to like a, of course we can, I mean, to like dopamine. And again, you're right that we can always start by ourselves and take a dumb phone, right, and stop being addicted to the internet. But the problem it becomes is when you actually like go someplace and you can see like everybody is just like zombies, right? I mean, glued to these phones completely, and it's harder and harder to to build like connections, right, with people when everybody is so crazy obsessed with, right, with technology. Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
some kind of, and I mean, I know it's a little bit, even I know it went far from diversity and optimism and hope, but I mean, it's just
it's very important to make space to what you're talking about, to our fears. Yeah, like these feelings, these negative feelings, we need to make space for them also, right? But I would encourage again to turn it into an action rather than like, yeah, we can get exposed to so much information on the internet that could just become overwhelming, and either we would get just very upset and then do nothing with those feelings, and those feelings will just stay inside and like maybe even lead us to like to apathy, to this like state where we just can't care anymore because we just have all these negative feelings bottled up. So I would say we need to find what we do with, yeah, like with all these negative feelings. We first of all need to let them be there, right? Like, um, there's my favorite novelist I mentioned to you, Alif Shafak, like the How to Stay Sane in the Age of Division. And she talks about like how apathy can come from this, like the state of being exposed to so much information. Like the internet came along, we thought it would be the solution for everything, and we ended up just being overwhelmed with all the news that we can hear and be exposed to all the things, the awful things happening. So she, what she says is to less focus on being more exposed to information and be more exposed to, she makes the distinction between information, knowledge, and wisdom. Information would be just hearing all the news, all the bad things, all the reports of what's going wrong. Knowledge would be somebody's interpretation and analysis into that. And wisdom would be when we read a novel or we see a piece of work of art and it does something like, or like listen to a song and it does something to our, like, to us, to our bodies as humans. So maybe also we do not need to expose ourselves to more and more information. Maybe more wisdom. Maybe we expose ourselves more to like things that touch us on an emotional level, and we feel the feelings. We need to feel negative feelings. But also channeling it, not just letting it like cause something rotten inside of us, but thinking, how do we channel these negative feelings into doing good, into making the world back to hope, how to make the world a better place, right? So you brought up some fears that you have, and now like maybe I can urge you somehow to find a way to channel it into an action, a personal roadmap where you
personal roadmap is a podcast.
What's in your control that you can do about.
No, I there is actually things I do on this front, right? Which is obviously like changing my phone into. I mean, I haven't initially. I thought about it like getting rid of the smartphone at all, just turning into like a normal old Nokia. But I mean, later I found a way to make it into some kind of dumb phone. Like changing everything black and white, removing all the icons and notifications. So you have one icon, call and messages, and that's all. And it's already like helpful enough. And yes, obviously like a meeting with friends more, like going, like cooking, like you say, right? And it's also my hobby. And I mean, podcasts as well, honestly, you see, it's just a non-commercial project at all. But I mean, the idea is just connect with, great people, and talk is just like a connection, right? Rather than, and you know what, I mean, just on the positive note, because I, through such a, like a big topic, I'm not sure, probably, I'm not sure what you think about it, but I mean, to me, like a music industry is kind of home because in all this like a tech world, there is still like a one place. Oh yeah, here we are.
Sorry.
No.
Music.
He actually, he or she,
Charlie.
Charlie. Hey, Charlie. He actually, he was already like making some noises, so I was thinking he probably needs some attention. He wanted to bring attention to him, right?
That was Laura. There's I have 3 pets. It's busy here. But music.
Yeah, so I was just trying to say that, on the positive note, I mean, this is the industry where, I mean, probably one of the few industries that I can see that people don't, they actually call this, big-headed, like people with some, they want to build corporations and, like tech bros and rather with some kind of contempt, and, they just build companies that are like for 15, 20 people, and they, and once again, I mean, I know that can be bigger. I mean, I work for a big company. It's actually super, I have some very good, like a team. It's amazing people. There are amazing people. If they're listening, saying hi. But I mean, what I like is that there is this diversity, that, you don't have to become big, and, you don't have to be a tech bro to be, to be respected, and yeah, and then you can find place, coming back to, like finding like a nice team or nice company, right? That you can actually still choose between large and small, and, between very, let's say, startup like, and between corporations, right? So I mean, this is definitely, and I hope it will stay this way, this is definitely the, the industry that it's not completely consumed by this, like a big tech kind of thing. It's funny because, on LinkedIn sometimes I should get rid of LinkedIn. This is, something which is which costs so much. Yeah.
We can a bit go into that, like, just to say things. Yeah, maybe it's not so black and white, but please, LinkedIn. You were gonna say about LinkedIn.
No. Just like saying that one of those things that is so funny that, some people say, oh, Facebook, Google, it's just like a that you're just like a big guy because, you worked for like a large corporation, right? And I can, see that sometimes, people who listening to this podcast say, oh, there's some kind of guy from, from Google, etc. So it doesn't make such a big impression that you are like an executive from, large corporation, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. Which is cool, which is, in my opinion, it's okay, because you don't have to, like, again, pretend that you are someone you are not, right? That you don't have to,
You can imagine that, again, like when we started with talking about startups and large companies, I have a problem with totalities. So yeah, LinkedIn is not black and white. Like music tech, it's I can see what you're saying about it being a place for people with the passion, accepting people, like people that are accepting. That was my experience. But again, like I don't like totalities. Like I like to give people a chance, and not like say because they fall into a certain category they are good or bad or right or wrong.
I got you. Listen, I mean, by any mean, I didn't want to say that everybody who's like from a large corporation is just like a jerk or something, right? I think I was trying to say is that similarly, like you said about, pretend, not to, like behave that you like, others want you to be, or like you feel that it's expected. So I think it's great that you don't have to always prize and, without even feeling something negative towards it, being simply like a neutral, right? I mean, okay, he works for like a Google. If this is, something for him, that's fine. If somebody works, for a small company and somebody else is just producing something, like a work in a manufacturing company, that's all fine. But, so we don't sort of, yes, I think this is it. What I'm trying to say, it's just like to me, it's just like a coming out with, finally, I don't have to pretend that I'm just like a, so that, big tech and IT, and it's always like such a, big, you can work in tech and without being completely formatted and just, like saying what everybody else say, and, that you're expected. I think that's what I'm trying to say. But, with the very big, yes, positive thing about it, that is in the music industry, I think it's still there, right? You have Sennheiser, you have Avid, but you can, there are small companies, I don't know, like a Ozenc, or, some Berlin-based, I don't know, orchestral tools, etc. Smaller companies, successful companies with cool people, right? Some, and you don't have to, be somebody you are not, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm open to like any industry that I'll end up from here. It's just my experience was that, in different industries, I found myself and I found good people. But definitely grateful for these past 6 years and having a home in music software.
But what did you do, Tzipi, in Native Instruments? Because we went to all those like hard topics, right? And then I know a little bit, right? But I mean, I'm not sure we'd like to, talk a little bit more about, what were your responsibilities in NI?
Yeah, happy to share. Yes, I came in as the product manager for Native Access 1 when it was just released. So I helped optimize it and really working closely with our lovely customer support team, with the beta community, and also actually setting up like looking at behavioral data. So really taking Native Access 1 to the next step, optimizing on different panes. And yeah, I was with the team also when we worked on making the download experience and installation and download experience possible in Machina Plus. Then it's continued on to when we moved to working on the next major version Native Access 2. So I moved actually I found it I handed over the role to other awesome colleagues and of the product manager of Native Access, and I went to focus on making the lives of developers in native instruments easier, simpler. So at this point also we had Isotope building and releasing their products for our pipeline. So I got the honor of working on being the PO for the pipeline, helping improve things on the backstage.
Platform,
helping with the release pipeline. Yeah, that's me. And most importantly, I mentioned before, the culture. So just I really got a chance I was really lucky to be able to bring people together from different teams, also for work purposes, also to accomplish some big projects that needed collaboration across multiple teams, but also just connecting over things like speaking German together and sharing meals. And it was, I learned so much about myself in those years. It was, like you're speaking very fondly of being in music tech, and same here. So many fond feelings of this time of working in native instruments.
Yeah, maybe what we can say to the listeners that if they would like to hear a little bit more about your experience, they can join the meetup. It's actually on September 18th and in Berlin, and it's called Audio Product Jam, launching products, and there will be like entire event, free event, community event where we are going to talk about, like a various aspects of launching and releasing, updating products. And there will be like a lot of interesting guests. And one of the speakers will be Tzipi, actually sharing experience about the nurturing connections, right? The nurturing connections, that's that's a very interesting topic.
Grace and connection. So self and others, again, like how it's important to work with ourselves so we can work with our teams, huh?
Yep. And also, if I can just say to our listeners that obviously you can follow the podcast or any platform of your choice, right? So Apple Podcasts or Spotify, YouTube channel, so all this, if you want to meet Charlie together with Tzipi, you can obviously watch everything on YouTube. And we have our Discord server, right? So Audio Product Academy, if you look for it, you will find it. And then we have also a premium page, Buy Me a Coffee. You can just simply Google audio podcast on Buy Me a Coffee page. And it's just simply small subscription page for the podcast where we add some unpublished articles and reports and stuff, you know. So as I mentioned, the podcast is non-commercial. It's really like a, you know, giving back to the community, so to speak. But, you know, obviously like any small donation, you know, won't harm. And, you know, just help us, you know, keep doing this podcast, right? So thank you so much, guys. Yep. So yeah, that's always sort of like a
Humbling?
change. No, I'm
Humbling
just trying to say that
moment?
every time I'm just like trying to put this like a page and say, guys, please follow here and there, then I just forgot what I was trying to say, right? So it just completely takes me, you know, like change the tempo. Yeah, what I wanted to say is, yeah, I mean, first of all, you know, I'm native instruments user, so yeah, I mean, I was through this all native access evolution, so you know, I can definitely say as a, you know, like a satisfied user, I remember, you know, like from early days when there was so much in the the community pages, so much noise, and yeah, I was just like looking how it transforms. So you know, as a user, I can say thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I'll pass on to the other product managers that took on native access. So.
Literally, I want to say, obviously, still one of my like I mean, just like listen, I have to like rebuild my computer because I have constant issues with my laptop, and you know, like Apple support told me, hey, you need to back up your computer, and how the hell I'm going to like a backup 1 terabyte of, you know, like a complete ultimate bundle, right? It's just like so many of those libraries there are there, and I mean, I have this like I have to say like a network drive that I had to like back up everything into. It's just so slow, and it says 20 hours. So I have to like reschedule the entire visit, you know, to another day because I need to like back up everything. They need to probably like erase everything. And I say no. Yeah, so that's my go-to libraries for sure. And listen, what I want to humble, you know, about humble, you know, I'm not once again. I'm not trying to say that by talking about the music industry, people that there are no great people in other industries. But what I wanted to say, that's, you know, I was just very much into music like in 90s. Then I went to other, you know, industries, and actually I had some also like a, you know, shitty experience too, like probably everyone. And then I was just like, what should be my next sort of move, right? And I say, hey, I'm just into music and technology. So, you know, I just like realized, and I could just be a PM in the music industry. And then when I finally got there, and I mean here, and started to do this podcast, I just realized that, you know, unlike that my like last few years of experience, you know, more experience and successful people I meet, more humble they are. And, you know, I mean, there is no, literally, you will never know until somebody else will tell you, this guy has a Grammy, right, under the belt, or this guy actually play on the trumpet, or like on, you know, this album. And they just, you know, there is no like a me. Yeah. So I'm just like still, you know, it's a couple of years already, and I'm still like amazed that, you know, there is so few people with, you know, this overinflated egos. And, you know, that's I think what I was trying to say. Yeah. No, but, you know, without saying that can be, I mean, probably in other industries can, you know, the same can be true, right?
Yeah. And a bit promotion for the meetup. I'm looking forward to meet some of those people. To meet more people in this the music tech world.
Yeah, that would be, guys, the link to the meetup is obviously in the description of the episode, so, you know, so check it out if you are in Berlin, or, you know, in September you are going through Berlin. We would like to warmly invite you. Yeah. Tzipi, can I like you know, just jump to one more topic? You know, like you know, it spoke, you know, about vulnerability and actually shared view, and, you know, like a diversity and hope. But I mean, any other like a cultural aspects, of like a, so like maybe more down to earth, like related, to like a. What do you think is like important yet from the, let's say, team collaboration, connection? So how to build like a healthy organization, so to speak.
Right. I can mention things that I struggled with that I think help the culture and the organization and the team. So yeah, so when going about this optimism, I found that sometimes I wasn't making space for what I mentioned before about Elif Shafak, the novelist, and making space for negative feelings. So yeah, and this is where we're talking about diversity. We're talking about when diversity really happens and people feel included. It makes space for a feeling of belonging. And then we spoke about vulnerability, right? So people can share their feelings. So when we create this space in which people can share their feelings, this needs to be also okay with sharing the negative feelings and to allow them. And my tendency to, I need to fix it because somebody has a negative feeling. No, just listen, make space for the negative feelings. We can get to the point of fixing, we can get to the point of what does this mean for our plan and how we need to adapt our plan later. But let's just listen to people and make space for the negative feelings. At the same time, also, and it's not sharing of feelings. Also, sometimes when something it's when we make space for people, that also means not, or it could be when somebody is sharing a problem, or actually, I guess mostly when thinking about when somebody's sharing a problem, sometimes we would rush to the first solution that we think. So I am definitely guilty of that. So taking time, not rushing to find a solution, being okay with being in the problem space. So making space for negative feelings, being okay spending some more time in the problem space. Exercise I really enjoy doing. Also retros is the 5 whys. So really digging into the core issue before rushing to find a solution that might not provide a sustainable solution. What else? Like we need to be role models on the one hand. We spoke about vulnerability and how you've been meeting people that are humble. And I remember also in the earlier episode, you mentioned a professor that really inspired you that was able to say, I don't know, right? So I find that inspirational and something I want to do more is to be okay. And this is, for me, it's Brené Brown, The Gift of Imperfection. That was my inspiration for the I don't know and being okay with being imperfect. So yeah, let's show as part of the being vulnerable to help people feel belonging. I think part of that recipe is to my dog is doing like a symphony in the background, so it's a bit hard to focus. He's like, you said in 5 minutes we're going out, right? Sorry. But what was my last thought? Oh, right. Imperfection, right? Like it includes saying we don't know. It includes like admitting that we stumbled and got something wrong. And then others would feel okay with being their imperfect selves because maybe we were the role models to show that it's okay to to be imperfect. And maybe we will also solve some of we didn't dive into stress and anxiety, but maybe
oh yes
maybe that can also help with some of our stress when we're okay with the idea that we make mistakes, right?
That's actually normal. You know what? Two things come to my mind. One is how to fit all this. I mean, once again, it's just how to I can hear.
You can hear.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is how to fit. Sorry, please.
What's happening is he
scrubbing the door.
He sometimes wants to play with the cats, so he's staring at one of the cats and whining, "Why won't you play with me?" But the cat won't play with him. He does not like to play with him.
Good one. Such a nice family, right? So good that they're not like.
No.
You know what I'm trying to ask is how to fit this into like a, let's say, team's routine. You know, so it's just like a, it's obviously so important, right, to build such a healthy team. But you know, I mean, in many situations, you know, team, you know, there is so much pressure, right? I mean, meetings, you know, the plan, you know, like a sprint planning, you know, demo and daily and retros, etc. You know, so are you like using, you know, you already mentioned that you like retros, etc. So are you like using, for example, like existing ceremonies? How to, you know, what would be your like a recommendation? How, you know, to sort of like look after those, especially now in the remote teams nowadays, it's even harder, right? How to bring all these people from different time zones and from different locations, just connecting over teams, you know. So, you know, what would you recommend, you know, if somebody would like to say, okay, I would like to, you know, be such a hope-driven PM as well?
Yeah. So behind me in my bookshelf, I have a book called Rituals for Virtual Meetings with there's like dedicated meetings for creating this sense of connection and creating like a safe space for people to share. I can share with you that title. That's one resource I would recommend. I also mentioned Brené Brown, Gift of Imperfection. So just reading that and understanding better. It all needs to start with ourselves, right? So it's first we work on ourselves with being okay with not being perfect, and then we can take that to our team. And I've used several formats of retros to encourage that. Like I mentioned, the circles of influence. I need to find where's the source, and I can share that as well for the circles of influence. But that helps with this sense of hope, or like let's come up with a plan for making the world better. Another useful resource, and this is going back to the self. Lots of the work needs to start with us, with ourselves, and making peace with ourselves. So I also was very much inspired by Marshall Rosenberg, Nonviolent Communication, working on just starting with just like journaling. Like when COVID started, our people team and Native Instruments were very, very really trying to accommodate it to help us deal with the feelings. We had this, they kicked off a 30-day mental health journey. That one of the exercises that I started doing at that time and took it on for the next few years is journaling my feelings and admitting to my feelings. And once I admitted them to myself, I was able to come into meetings and share vulnerably how I'm doing, which is one of the exercises and the rituals for virtual meetings. So starting just with sharing, like we did in the beginning, what are we coming with to this call? And that helped people feel belonging. That helped people open up just by doing this exercise. And this is an exercise for when you're like maximum 6 people on the team. But if you're like a call of 10 people or more, then there's another exercise where it's just you say, every person in the call says hello to another person, and it creates a sense of like everyone's already heard. That's another exercise, and we definitely need to give these offers credit, because I already mentioned 2 very helpful exercises that they that I've been using to help with this sense of belonging. Yeah,
I need to read this book. I mean, honestly, I that's very interesting. You see, and one more thing that come to my mind after you mentioned this, how to embed it into the practice. I was for a little while head of the product in one company, responsible for the entire organization, product organization and R&D, reporting to the board. And honestly, I have to say that it was super hard because I had to, one hand, filter out, there was a lot of pressure coming from board and investors, and often the decision I had to justify that I wasn't 100% sure on board with, and that I found not 100% fair.
You had to shield the team.
Yeah, I had to shield the team, but it's not. I mean, I'm not trying to say by this that a board was, I don't know, particularly evil or something, right? But once again, just there is some obviously sometimes pressure and some growth. On the other hand, I just there was a lot of stress sometimes on the team, and I just realized that the job wasn't for me because I felt in the in the sandwich, right? That was emotions from all around the place, and it was really very hard to to cope, So I can feel that, and what I'm trying to say is that I was watched and some product managers I admired, right? And I felt like they're so, my role models or somebody that, I look up to. And they were always very optimistic and sort of calm, and they didn't act out, because I always saw how much when I was, and I mean, honestly, I'm simply like this, that I get emotional, right? And in that, really impacted the team very much because they just felt this fear or anxiety that I felt. So it was very hard actually, to share certain, as a leader, you were not able to do this, so, or I didn't find a proper way to do it, in order not to have a counterproductive thing. But once again, I'm a human, right? So I needed to have some coach. I mean, after all, there was some actually somebody helping me out so I can channel some of these emotions, but just wonder, what's your take on this, right? So being a product manager, and sometimes actually, it's not just a rainbow, and right, sometimes there is actually some, a reality, and how so one thing is actually how to help team, but how to help yourself in what do you think? What do you think?
Yes, we're getting into the mental health aspect. It's so important to take care of ourselves, right? We can't take care of the team if we don't take care of ourselves. And handling those emotions. We need to take care of ourselves. And it might not, this is exactly the places where I had difficulty with, but do other product managers do this? Have to go and do breathing exercises and yoga and meditation after every meeting because of the emotions that rose? Well, I don't know. Some, I hear that some do, but also if others don't, if that's what I need in order to take care of myself to deal with the emotions, that's what I'm gonna do. So, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to deal with those emotions. We need to find a way, and it's probably not going to the team with them, right? with those emotions. It's ranting to somebody that's in our personal life that we can rant to. It's doing whatever you do to deal with your stress. And then in a productive way, we act, right? Like we'll talk about it more in the meetup. But we deal with the stress in the moment. Like my dog Chewy is quite an inspiration for, like, on the moment something stresses him on the walk. In the exact moment, he will shake it off and he lets go of the stress. Sadly, he has very little he can actually do to deal with the stressors. He thinks that if he will bark at something, it will go away. It hardly ever works. So I am the one responsible for dealing with his stressors. And I'm also the one responsible for dealing with my stressors, right? So when there is a stressor that shows up at work, I first deal with the stress. Like, okay, I had a call. I got stressed about something. I'm going to do something with that feeling in my body that is right now, like, for me, it's like my digestion system is like now messed up. Or my jaw is like tight. So dealing with the stress. And then when we in a balanced state, dealing with the stressor. What is, like, thinking, reflecting, like using the process I have to reflect. It could be going and walking in nature and reflecting on why was I stressed about. You have the internet connection issues, and I have a zoo here that are just like not resting. They're like the most active they can be.
Okay, Tzipi, so like we touched like quite a lot of like a very, I would say, at least for me, quite difficult topics, or like things that are challenging, right? So like self-care and dealing with stress and actually nurturing the connections on the team. That's actually quite a lot of to digest and think about, honestly, as I have to say. So thank you very much for for sharing your perspective. And you see, I just completely because of this connection issues, I lost completely
It's okay. Maybe we can we can think now. We can reflect if the intention we set. What do you think? The intention we set for this episode, where, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know where we leave our audience. But do you feel like we're in a better place with, maybe inspiring for more connection, more respect, maybe even love through the talk that we had? How do you feel about it?
I believe so. I honestly believe that yes. And
I'm curious to hear what people think.
Oh Jesus, it's very yeah. It's just so we could
You're
only
back.
think. Hopefully we can at least yeah. So you asked the question whether actually the intention we set up at the beginning, if we could manage to fulfill it. I believe that we did, and although personally to me the discussion was pretty challenging, and I mean, I felt, like I shared a lot of it was actually mostly to interview you, but somehow got me to speak about some of my also vulnerable places. But I hope that's maybe good, right? Because that's And sorry that, maybe I took a little bit too much of a stage, but, just like a...
When
Honestly,
we were planning this, I told you that I hope this will be a conversation rather than an interview. So that mission is also accomplished. That's good.
Good. Yeah.
I'm
but I think
I'm
so.
really
Yeah,
glad. That's for me proof that what we talked about today, it's possible, right? To bring this like vulnerability to conversations when it's, it's perceived as a work conversation, but people say, hey, we can also be ourselves in this work environment. So this conversation is proof that it's possible to make things better.
So let me add on the top of it that, I will personally practically take a lot of, this stuff into my a daily routine. I think I do quite a lot of a self-care, I do mindfulness and stuff. So trying to somehow, look after my, life-work balance, gently speaking, or the mental health. But, I do have challenges also, we have, a remote organization, and you gave me a lot of, a great tips that I can also, turn into action. And it's just, to me, this discussion is difficult because we talk about these things that are hard to explain or, taken into when I talk about this, take it into action, frameworks, let's do, tools, they just lose certain, aspect of it because they're just, it's like relations, connections, so when I think, and I'm going to go to my team and, do some, another retro, in the other way, they just I think I'm just bastardizing a little bit, the subject of our conversation. But honestly, I think that you touch actually on a, on a subject that I'm actually currently very much struggling. So how we can be connect a little bit more, that we have, team that is from India to, West Coast of US, and how we can be more like a real team than just individuals doing some task in Jira, so that's really what I'm struggling. Yeah. And yeah, so hopefully that's, I'm saying this because I would like, our listeners also, to be able to take this and, that way.
Yeah. I hope we can continue having these conversations, how to turn it into something actionable. For example, in the meetup in Berlin.
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm looking forward
All right,
to
listen,
that.
so I'm absolutely, again, the subject is so interesting because we are going to talk about these vulnerability and connection, but in this, specific context of product launch when there is even more stress and even more tension, and it's actually even harder to keep the balance, right? So, it is when you propose this topic, I was like, oh, that's again something. This is probably something that is actually very, important for me because I love launching new product. I was always this kind of more startup, and I love a little bit of this pressure, but there is always, it's more, like a sport person, right? When you love,
the adrenaline.
Exactly. And how to actually balance, some
also
excitement.
Also rest. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Listen, forward.
So thank you so much, Tzipi, again for for our conversation, and see you in Berlin soon.
Yeah. Thank you for opening up this door for me, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you liked it. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and of course on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to it and hit the bell, because we publish a lot of interesting videos there, not just the episodes. You can also become a supporter and get premium content like additional reading, unpublished videos on our Buy Me a Coffee page, linked in the description of this episode. See you in the next one. Yo.